Uhuru.
Uhuru. This is Dosha and Elizabeth.
Uhuru and Dosha and Elizabeth.
Andre Robinson.
Andre, did you just say Andre Robinson?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ona.
Uhuru, Ona.
Brenda.
Uhuru, Brenda.
Uhuru, David.
Uhuru, everybody.
Uhuru. David.
Uhuru.
Martha.
Magda.
Yes, Uhuru.
Uhuru, Martha.
Uhuru, comrades.
Uhuru.
Magda, have you gained weight? I was just, I was looking at this presentation you sent to the plenary. You look different. In addition to being calm and in command and all those other kinds of things, have you gained a little weight?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay, you don't know. Okay,
I don't know.
all right. Yeah. Serene.
Okay, so let me call the names of who I have so that if your name isn't called, then please let me know you're there. I got Lisa, Denise, Kabaka, Dave, Star, Maureen, Ruby, Jesse, Kitty, Sean, Angela, Mike, Ali, Stephanie, Herdoja, Elizabeth, Andre, DC, Brenda, David, Magda.
Got Olivia.
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 Olivia? Olivia.
Yes.
Okay.
Olivia. Somebody just came on?
She's in
Oh, Gazi.
Uhuru Gazi. Where are you?
Good.
Okay, Fan.
Uhuru Magda.
Yes, Uhuru.
Do you have the ability to be able to connect the forces in South Africa?
Also, they want that night.
No, because I have my phone. I'm on my way home now. And I tried to reach Luisi because he said that he could connect them and the brother in Nigeria.
Okay.
But I couldn't reach Luisi, so.
I'm gonna
Is he
friend
on-
the one from Nigeria.
on-
He's gonna send us,
Is Luisi maybe on Skype?
Let's see if I can get it.
Yeah, he is.
I see you, Dave.
He's probably trying to hook everybody up. I could try to call him.
What is that?
Yeah. Uhuru.
I see the love. I see the hearts.
Yeah, that's Dave. They giving a bunch of hearts.
Oh, that's great.
Oh,
Oops.
are you hooking up with the comrades in Nigeria?
Yeah, I'm looking for him. He's not on he's not connected yet.
Okay.
I can't see him yet online. Let me see. I'm gonna call out on a cell phone to see what's going on. But as soon as I'll bring it. But I'm not calling first to see what's going on. Because we already agreed that
How many
you'll be
people?
connected.
Uhuru.
Johan.
Johan. Uhuru, Johan.
Good. Oh, it's Brian.
Uhuru, Brian.
Brian, how are you? Who's that other person?
Sound like a fan.
Yeah, Uhuru.
Oh, Brian,
Uhuru, Chairman.
you all right? I guess it's that early morning in California. Did you talk to Maito?
You just came, somebody just came on.
So who right
Who are down now?
He, tell me, could you call Mike down? Bring him in? Because he has his issue, he can't call into the conference call. We got 3 on Periscope, 4 on,
Are we about ready?
It's 9:08.
Who comrades? I want to thank everybody for coming to this study. This is an important study. It is not to state that most of them are not, but this is the first study that we've done since this incredible plenary that we just came out of. And everybody who participated in the plenary, I'm sure, experienced that as a form of political education as well. In fact, I saw the plenary as an intensive 3-day kind of political education. The first 2, of course, were days that were organized around the parties directly, and then this 3rd day, of course, was the APSC plenary. So one of the things that's happening is that clearly that was revealed by the plenary itself, is that we've certainly reached a certain kind of a turning point in the struggle for the freedom of our people, and in the historic struggle of the oppressed peoples throughout the world fighting against imperialist white power. And one of the things that should have come out clearly to everyone is that it's not good enough just to have a good idea or to be opposed to oppression. That if real opposition to oppression has to be manifested in organization and activity, something to overturn this relationship that we have. Of course, that's certainly what the party's plenary was geared to do, and that's what our political organization revolves around, that too. That simply being able to complain about a problem or to recognize a problem is not sufficient, that we have to organize to do something about it. And if a people is oppressed, then the way to end that is to achieve organization to fight for the liberation of an oppressed people. That organization is the African People's Socialist Party. This is something that we've been clear about in the party for many, many years. It's the thing that's given us the kind of stamina that's made it possible for us to fight for more than 40 years as the party proper to bring people into political life at times when the movement had been crushed, destroyed, when there were only a handful of people even interested in talking about being Black, being African, etc. Now we've seen an explosion of consciousness among African people. The plenary was a manifestation of that that consciousness being directed into some kind of organization. There's other evidence that we are experiencing in the African People's Socialist Party. More and more people are rushing to join the party. We have a kind of crush of new members, new applicants to the party that is a good contradiction for us. I say it's a contradiction because we have gone a long period of time without seeing this kind of interest in the revolutionary movement, and suddenly there's this explosion of consciousness, and we are rapidly doing everything that we can to facilitate bringing people into the party who need to be in the party. But as we achieve greater political clarity, and as we begin to grow more and more, the need for understanding the party and achieving the kind of party that's going to win our freedom becomes extraordinarily important, more important than we initially recognized when we saw the urgency within the party of deepening the political and ideological understanding of the Department of Agitprop that has the responsibility for political education within the party and for the masses as well. Agitprop, of course, is that department that puts out the Burning Spear newspaper, that's over Uhuru Radio, Uhuru News, that is responsible for political education. It is, as we've called it, the heartbeat of the party. And the growth in interest of the party and the numbers of people coming into the party and directly into Agitprop required us to do what we could to escalate the development, the ideological and political development of members of the party, and then we opened it up to of Agitprop proper. That became a real important task force, and then we opened it up to other people in the party and increasing into the movement. I think at our last meeting we had more than 300 people who participated in the study. We may do as many today. But the thing is that with growing numbers of people coming into the party, it's incumbent upon us to help people understand what the party is. And even if they're not coming into the party, they need to know what the party is. They need to be able to distinguish the party from their frat groups or their local NAACP entity or the Black Lives Matter club that may exist in their community or something to that effect. What is the African People's Socialist Party, and why is it important to have a party? That's part of what it is that we need to discuss on today. I had thought that we should also do soon after this a study on issues like security, like helping people understand the enemies of our struggle and how to anticipate their activities. There's more that we need to learn about the party itself, and we'll be doing those things. Next week, we should be doing a study on well, I was thinking about the Constitution, but I think we are engaged in urgent struggle right now that we may want to do the Constitution after the next study, which probably needs to be organized around the Africans charged genocide. We probably need to explain this whole question of genocide, the efforts we're making not only at the United Nations, but throughout this country to wage this campaign. Now, it had been brought to my attention that after the plenary, there were people who wanted to have a discussion on the role of solidarity or the significance of solidarity. And I think that's an important thing to do, and had planned to initiate a study around that question. The immediate interest in this was the presentation that was made by Comrade Penny Hess at the plenary. And this was because, as I understand it, some Africans were actually offended by the presentation. And as I have come to understand, the offense was based on the fact that there was this white woman standing up making this statement about all the things that white people have done, we have done. And I understand the fact that people would be offended, and we won't be able to deal with that right away. Not in this study, not in the next couple of studies. But let me just say this, that one of the reasons people were offended is because the way this question has been handled about white people and African people in the past, especially in the recent past, has been to gloss over the contradiction, not to get to the essence of the question, because white people did do that stuff to us, but you've never seen a white person that stood before a group of African people and did what amounts to a self-criticism for what white people have done. And it's easier to talk about this question in some kind of abstractions and let us all get along together, and or even if you're not thinking about that, but not to go into the gory details of what white people have done to us. But those gory details are real and they need to be talked about. And it sets, I believe, a new benchmark, a new bar rather, for how I think we have to force the white world and America to recognize what white world has done to African people and to other peoples around the world. So there was no sugarcoating there. And in fact, I thought it was the best presentation that I had heard coming from the Solidarity movement, and maybe since 1985. But anyway, we won't get into that today or the next couple of studies, because I just think it's really important for us to consolidate it as quickly as we can, the understanding of people, so that we can be more effective in building and consolidating the African People's Socialist Party, which is the weapon that's needed to make this revolutionary struggle, to end the misery of our people, and to engage in creating a new world. So I wanted to say that. The second thing I want to say is that this is an extraordinarily long study. It's an old document that we're looking at. It indicates in the document that you have that it was copyrighted something like 1980, 86, 87, 86. But the fact is that it must have been written at least by certain sections of it, at least by 1982, because there are references that go back to 1982 or earlier. And saying that there are some things that in here that have to be taken in that light. By that I mean that there are references to constitutions in there that are wrong. They're wrong because the Constitution has been changed since 1982. There are some references in the basic party line in this document that's not accurate. We no longer use that as the basic party line, in part because one can read that and assume that we see as our mission the struggle to win socialism in this country. And that is not an accurate statement. And so I wanted to make comments about that. And again, that there's some stuff that's old in here, but the basic document is a good, solid document. And everybody here in this meeting, everybody who's interested in understanding what the party is, and everybody should be interested in doing that, should read and study this document. This should be something that we study on a regular basis. So I'm hoping that next week what we'll do is talk about Africans charged genocide, talk about the United Nations Convention on the crime, on the prevention and punishment of the crime of genocide, and the campaign that we are waging under the leadership of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement around that. And then the following study intend to revolve around the constitution of the party. Everyone who received the document for this study should have also got the constitution of the party as a part of the resources that we'll be using. We won't use that document so much, the Constitution, but it's something that we should study. I don't know how many people who've come into the party or how many people who've been in the party for a long time. A Constitution is something that often doesn't get read. People read it once or twice and then push it away someplace. But this is a really important document, and so we're going to add that to the list of studies. And again, you should have a copy of that Constitution with you. As I mentioned, what we're going to be looking at today is build and consolidate the party. And it is a very long document. And the beginning of the document, we lay out the significance of the party's Congress, which is the highest body of the African People's Socialist Party. As that should be, because the Congress is that time when the party and its affairs are turned over to the membership, when leaders are elected, when basic policies are determined, when resolutions are passed, mandates created, constitutions revised if necessary, And this is the highest body of the African People's Socialist Party. We talk about democratic centralism, the highest body, the highest organization of the party is the Congress itself, which is an activity where the party is turned over to the membership for the duration of the Congress. It talks about the significance of that. And the fact is that there have not been that many Congresses conducted by a revolutionary African party in this country. We may be, we had said for a long time that we were the only or the first, but it may be that we were the second party to have done a Congress. And we think that's really important because it contributes to the democratic component of the party, which we think is really important. It talks earlier on about some of the history and struggles of the party. The fact that we've created mass organizations, everything from the African National Prison Organization, African National Reparations Organization. It's an example of how the party has assumed the responsibility to create and to lead mass organizations of the people. It's one of those ways, the mass organizations, that the party maintains strong links with the masses of the people. The mass organizations function as a kind of transmission belt, linking the party to the masses as one of those transmission belts. So we talk about that quite a bit. What I'm going to do now is go to page 14 and 15 in this document, where we begin to say some things about what the party is and what the party should do. Let me go to page 15. And on the third paragraph, we say that, to paraphrase former Black Panther leader Huey P. Newton, when he was a revolutionary during the Black Revolution of the 60s, quote, the party must be the ox upon whose back the masses ride. That's a statement about the party. The party is that vehicle. It's the best representative of the organized African working class and the oppressed African nation. Much earlier, two 19th century European revolutionaries, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels authored a similar statement, and I quote them. The communists, therefore, are on the one hand practically the most advanced and resolute section of the working class parties of every country, that section which pushes forward all others. On the other hand, theoretically, they have over the great mass of the proletariat the advantage of clearly understanding the line of march, the conditions, and the ultimate general results of the proletarian revolution. This is from Marx and Engels. I want to read that again. The communists, therefore, are on the one hand, practically the most advanced and resolute section of the working class parties of every country, that section which pushes forward all others. On the other hand, theoretically, they have over the great mass of the proletariat the advantage of clearly understanding the line of march, the conditions, and the ultimate general results of the proletarian movement. That's what the party is. That's what the revolutionaries, that's what the communists are. It was to be left to V.I. Lenin, the 20th century Russian revolutionary, to successfully build and lead the revolutionary organizations spoken of by Marx and Engels and later by Newton. Having declared, quote, "Give us an organization of revolutionaries and we will overturn Russia," unquote, Lenin set upon the task to build the revolutionary organization that overturned Russia and became the prototype for revolutionary organizations of the oppressed and exploited peoples throughout the world. So the organization that Lenin built, the organization that Lenin proclaimed necessary to overturn Russia was the one that he created, and it has become the prototype for revolutionary organizations throughout the world struggling against capitalist and imperialist oppression and for national liberation, including the African People's Socialist Party. Such a party is different from the parties which have existed before and which were generally in the service of oppressor and exploiting classes, notwithstanding the limited and occasional membership of the oppressed peoples and exploited classes. And such a party as what Lenin was talking about, as is the African People's Socialist Party, is different from parties that have existed before and which were generally in the service of the oppressor and exploiting class, notwithstanding the fact notwithstanding the limited and occasional membership of the oppressed peoples and exploited classes. In other words, even though the Democratic Party and Republican Party are organizations of the oppressors, that there is membership in those parties of the oppressed people and exploited classes. Such a party is what we are talking about is the advanced guard. Is the vanguard, the advanced detachment of the working class. It is a party of communists, a party of a new type. Such a party is the African People's Socialist Party. Our task is to unite our people under the leadership of the Black working class in the struggle for political independence, African liberation, and socialism. That's what the task of the party is. The party is the non-dogmatic, non-compromising, anti-opportunistic political leader of our people and class in their struggle for power. I didn't say for integration. It is the non-dogmatic, non-compromising, and anti-opportunistic political leader of our people and class in their struggle for power. And sometimes people get confused during this period, and they don't understand that the struggle is for power. And sometimes they might be around or come into the African People's Socialist Party, and they can be disappointed when we don't join in efforts to make America better, or can't we all get along, and what's the difference in all of us are fighting for the same thing, et cetera, when all of us are not fighting for the same thing. We are saying quite clearly that ours is a struggle for power, that the African workers and the African exploited and oppressed nation needs power. So we say it is the responsibility of the party to direct all the energies and forces of the masses toward the building of a new world, not to get along in this one, but to build a new world. When we say that the party is the vanguard or the advanced detachment of the colonized African working class, this must not be confused with the idea that the party and the working class are the same. The African People's Socialist Party is formed from the best sons and daughters of the domestically colonized Black working class. And here we're talking about within the US, but it is true wherever the party is located. At any given time, the mass of the Black working class may exist in a state of demoralization or a morass of social backwardness or religious fatalism, drug-induced lethargy, or a number of ailments often associated with revolutionary defeat. And we've seen this in other times in history. When the revolution is defeated, people often fall into a certain kind of fatalism, defeatism, demoralization, religious obscurantism, etc. Therefore, the party must consist of those Africans most dedicated to the revolutionary cause and not just anyone who wishes to join. Otherwise, the party would dissolve into the masses and would not be able to fulfill its role as the vanguard and carries that carries behind it the entire Black working class. If the party dissolves into the masses, then it cannot lead the masses. The masses suffer from all kinds of contradictions that sometimes are overwhelming. And so it's not just, this is the African working class. When you look at what happened with the drug infusion into our communities, although a few African petty bourgeois forces might get caught up into it, there was whole African communities, you know, that were wiped out by this drug thing. And we had petty bourgeois organizations like the Nation of Islam, the Republic of New Africa, etc., running around talking about taking back the streets and effectively working with the police, and somehow assuming that the police or the government could solve the problem when they were responsible for the problem, and saying that the problem had something to do with some moral deficit on the part of the African working class, when really what had happened is the African working class, because of its significance as a revolutionary force, had been targeted by the imperialists. And that's where the drugs and all this other kind of stuff, the drugs, the churches, everything pumped into the African community to keep it confused and unable to see the way forward to make the revolution. So here's what we say. 1, the party is the conscious vanguard detachment of the colonized Black working class, which must know and be able to creatively apply African internationalism, the ever-developing historical materialist theory of the party. The party is the conscious vanguard detachment. In addition to being the advanced detachment of the domestically colonized African working class, the party is also the organized detachment. So it's the conscious detachment, is the organized detachment of the African working class in the struggle for political independence, African liberation, and socialism. It is the conscious detachment. It is the organized detachment. Embodied within the party is the solidarity of the colonized African working class. The party constitutes a strong organization in which all party members are united in a single collective, and where every communist works under party control and bears individual responsibility for the affairs of the whole party. Every member of the party, every African internationalist assumes responsibility for the affairs of the whole party. The significance of the party as an organized detachment of the Black working class is exemplified in this passage from one of the works by Lenin, whom we've been talking about before. Quote,
"Peace, this Donovan.
The party is the politically conscious advanced section of the class. It is the politically conscious advanced section of the class. It is its vanguard. The strength of that vanguard is 10 times, 100 times, more than 1,000 times greater than its numbers. Is that possible? Can the strength of hundreds be greater than the strength of thousands? It can be and is. When the hundreds are organized, organization increases strength tenfold. The political consciousness of the advanced contingent is incidentally manifested in its ability to organize. By organizing, it achieves unity of will, and this united will of an advanced 1,000, 100,000, million becomes the will of the classes. That's the significance of the party and of organization. That's something that should be understood. So we say organization and political consciousness go hand in hand. Political consciousness is revealed in the first place by individuals becoming parts of organizations which have definite political aims and represent specific material interests. Generally speaking, the Black working class has been taught the value of organization. That's through its life and everything that it does. And so we say that generally speaking, the Black working class has been taught the value of organization and discipline by life in general and by the actual conditions of life for the class. This is true despite the fact that at certain times, such as now, after the class has suffered a major defeat, like the Black revolution of the 60s, the class has to regain confidence in its own ability and organization. I think that we really, generally speaking, I think we've overcome that period where there's a lack of confidence in the class. I think that we see the numbers of people coming into the party and eagerly, willingly stepping forward to assume tremendous responsibilities. Responsibilities I think that most of them could not have even imagined just several months ago, is clear evidence that this lack of confidence has been overcome. But when this was written, it was a real serious problem for the African Revolution. This defeat had crushed the confidence. I mean, you got to remember, you should know that we saw leaders assassinated in very public ways, very exemplary fashions, very brutal fashions. I mean, King, Malcolm X, members of the Black Panther Party, whole community stuffed massive roundups of militants throughout this country, stuffed in the prisons and what have you. So there was a serious kind of demoralization, and then as this happens, the African petty bourgeoisie, or a sector of it, that in most instances had been opposed to the revolution, and I'm talking about a sector. I mean, because even there were some patriotic sectors of the African petty bourgeoisie, like Martin Luther King, but he was surrounded by sycophants and people who, like Jesse Jackson, people like Andrew Young, a host of other forces who were self-serving and were not able to recognize some of the things that King was able to fight for as one of the advanced sectors of the African petty bourgeoisie. So we say that the domestically colonized African working class does not fear organization and discipline. And this is not just true of Africans here. If anybody who's ever worked in Sierra Leone, occupied Tanzania, South Africa, Ghana, we've seen the working class ready to move forward. And it wants organization. In fact, some of the strongest examples of a demand for organization that we've seen is on the continent of Africa itself. Its participation, the domestic colonized African working class, does not fear organization and discipline. Its participation in our most successful organizations in modern times, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, Nation of Islam, and the Black Panther Party, clearly demonstrate this, that the masses are not afraid of organization, and they recognize the significance of organization. The necessary unity and organization of the party cannot exist without discipline. Just as organization and political consciousness go hand in hand, so do organization and discipline go hand in hand. And so because of this, excuse me, please, we've created a basic organizational principle of the party. It's this democratic centralism, which unites our party around a single center with single rules and a single discipline. And this says Article 8, but I think it's Article 5 of the party's constitution established what is democratic centralism. You will find it in the party. It talks about democratic centralism. And that is the system according to which all leading committees of the party, from the unit bureaus up to the highest committees are elected by the membership or delegates of the given party organization. Every elected party committee must report regularly on its activity to the party, to its party organization. It must give account of the work. And some people get annoyed because we require and demand and push for accounts of the work. That's democratic centralism. We got to know what you're doing. It has to be, all the work that we do has to be held accountable. My work has to be held accountable. That's why there's a political report to the party that's mandated by the Constitution. The lower party committees and all party members of the given party organization have the duty of carrying out the decisions of the higher party committees and the Central Committee. In other words, decisions of the Central Committee and the higher party committees are binding upon the lower bodies. Party discipline is observed by party members and party organization because only those who agree with the program of the African People's Socialist Party and the Central Committee can become members of the party. 5, the minority carries out the decisions of the majority. That is the subordination of the minority to the majority. Party questions are discussed by the members of the party and by the party organization until such time as the decision is made by the party committee or organization. After the decision has been made by the leading committees, by the Central Committee of the party, or by the Party National Congress, this decision must be unreservedly carried out, even if a minority of the party organization is in disagreement with it. 6, the party organizations, units, and regions have the full initiative, right, and duty to decide on local questions within the limits of the general policies and decisions of the party. Unquote. So the relationship between the party and the people is the concretization, the embodiment of the relationship between the masses and the revolutionary process. It is through the relationship that the people have with the party that the relationship between the masses and the revolutionary process is concretized. That's the difference. I mean, you see all kinds of stuff happening. People go into cities and jump in front of this demonstration or that demonstration. Those are just demonstrations. But the relationship between the party and the people really concretizes the relationship between the people or the masses and the revolutionary process. It is in its anti-colonial socialist policy and activities, the party proceeds from the fact that the mass of the Black working class are the real makers of history, the decisive forces of social development. The people are. The party's strength lies in its links with the masses. The Black working class strength lies in the leadership of the party. Hence, the support and confidence of the colonized African working class are valued more than anything by the party, more than some relationship we got with Congressman Joe Blow, with any other kinds of things, the relationship that we have with the masses. And I've seen organizations and sometimes perhaps tendencies even in our own party to sacrifice the relationship we have with the masses for some relationship with some important person or group of people. That's a fatal flaw. Hence, the party constantly struggles to multiply and consolidate links with non-party people and to acquire the confidence of the masses. Hence, the party fights against any kind of sectarianism which could isolate it from the people, and at the same time against any attempts to dissolve the party in the mass of the people. As the advanced detachment of the domestically colonized African working class within the U.S. prison of nations, the party is called upon to train and enlighten the people. The party and all African internationalists must constantly carry out ideological educational work among the toiling masses. The party must take into consideration their needs, and we must consult with them. Mao Zedong, the great Chinese revolutionary, once summed this process up in this manner, quote, "In all the practical work of our party, all correct leadership is necessarily from the masses to the masses. This means take the ideas of the masses, scattered and unsystematic ideas, and concentrate them through party study, turn them into concentrated and systematic ideas. Then go to the masses and propagate and explain these ideas until the masses embrace them as their own, hold fast to them, and translate them into action, and test the correctness of these ideas in such action. Then once again, concentrate ideas from the masses, and once again, go to the masses so that the ideas are persevered in and carried through, and so on, over and over again in an endless spiral, with the ideas becoming more correct, more vital, and richer each time." that is how we do that. Even when we talk about black community control of the police, it is what we get from the people. And the fact that the people don't like the police rolling in on them all the time, making them do this, making them do that, pushing them around just because they got guns. So when we take the ideas of the masses and their opposition, their to how the police function, their resentment of how the police function in our community as this force over which we have no control. They didn't say black community control the police, but they did say that they tired of the police messing with them. They did say they're not asking. I haven't heard the masses in general ask for reform of the police department. So what we do is take the ideas of the masses that are scattered. They have not been consolidated in a good way, and we take them and then we say black community control the police, and then we take it back to the masses, and then win the masses to embrace what is actually their own ideas. Now that it's consolidated in a concise fashion, and move with it. And at some juncture, even in this struggle, the people may want to go beyond that, and we have to be alert and able to assess that, and we do that as a party. But the point is that from the party to the party. The party must constantly work to develop the initiative of the mass of non-party people and work with the people regularly in order to guarantee at every step that the party's links with the people are maintained, and in order to gauge how strong these links are at any given time. And this is important that we say we got links with the masses, but we have to have a certain kind of connection. We have to be able to gauge the strength of these links with the people based on our practical relationship, our practical activity with the people. The strength of the party and its links with the masses of our people are dependent upon our implementation of inter-party democracy, criticism, and self-criticism. The whole of inter-party life is directed at drawing larger and larger sections of the party's membership into active party work. The whole of inter-party life is directed at drawing larger and larger sections of the party's membership into active party work. That's what I love about this period too, because what we're seeing is the new people who are coming into the party, they don't have to be dragged into active party work. I mean, people are volunteering, people are looking at doing stuff even before it's even suggested. We see the new forces coming into the party having that, and especially the new leaders coming into that kind of excitement. The party constantly struggles to develop in every possible way the activity and initiative of African internationalists and their individual responsibility for the affairs of the party. What this means is that although our Central Committee and various other party leaders and organizations have their responsibilities to uphold in the party, individual members of the party are also responsible for the affairs of the party. That's one of the reasons we will have a political report. That's one of the reasons we have conferences. That's one of the reasons we think it's so important for the members of the party to be aware of things like our rules of party discipline, our program, etc. Because one of the objectives is so individuals who are in the party can assume responsibility for the party. So I have a responsibility as chair of this organization. And if the individual members are not participating in the life of the party and struggling for the policies of the party, then I can deviate. I can make errors that go unnoticed or undealt with because the party's membership, either through ignorance or unwillingness to fight for the policy of the party or to assume responsibility for the whole party, will allow that to happen. That should not happen. The fact is that the party affairs of the party is the responsibility for the party rests in every individual who's in the party as well. And in the past, some petty bourgeois forces have come into the party from the experience of so-called party building movement of the 70s. This was a period which followed the actual defeat of the Black Revolution of the 60s. It saw the emergence of the radical petty bourgeoisie of all nationalities in competition with each other for the loyalty of the masses of our then leaderless people who had no part in the theoretical dispute and whose material interests were not considered by the petty bourgeois intellectuals who were determined to lead it. And as the struggles between the petty bourgeois intellectuals were separate from the real material needs of the people, the disputes generally centered around purely theoretical questions. The petty bourgeois radicals would catch each other making errors in formulating theory separate from revolutionary practice. And this act of catching people making errors became a great sport among these radical petty bourgeois forces. They became more important than revolutionary practice and a revolutionary program with the interests of the black working class as its basis. The greatest revolutionaries in these circles were those who, using the written works of revolutionaries of other places and generally other periods, caught the greatest number of theoretical errors made by other petty bourgeois radical intellectuals using the same written works. This process of catching errors was transferred into our party in the past by some of these intellectuals. This process would actually allow them to see an error being made and not assume responsibility for correcting it themselves or for calling attention to it themselves. Their style was to catch the individual making the error, or indeed to catch the entire party leadership making an error, or to catch the party in error. Hence, catching was more important than the practical program of the party and more important than the party's strategical objectives. While this catching was the basis for determining leadership within the petty bourgeoisie radical circles, what catching obscured is in the real world was the absence of individual responsibility for the revolutionary process. While catching may be appropriate for groups of petty bourgeois radicals and ersatz revolutionaries whose individualism mocks the principle of revolutionary organization they claim to pursue, it is entirely out of place within the African People's Socialist Party, where the principle of criticism and self-criticism exists side by side with the principle of individual responsibility for the affairs of the party. So I want to skip down a couple of lines, paragraphs, and we see another firm African internationalist principle is ideological and organizational unity. Do you see that? Another firm African internationalist principle is ideological and organizational unity. This does not call for any kind of unity. The party is opposed to unity based on a reconciliation of opposing lines. The party's line is one which is based on a scientific appraisal of the requirements of the revolution at every period. It is a line that must withstand the test of practice, and which the party as an organization, through its legitimate process and procedures, including the party Congress, has come to accept as the only correct line. Hence, the unity of the party is based on the party's line and not on a reconciliation of the party's line with some other line which may be imported into the party. And that's really important for us to understand because there's a tendency, especially among either new cadre, young forces coming into the work, or among opportunists, to try and reconcile all the political lines so that you can't distinguish the revolutionary line from an opportunist or other kind of line. We're saying the party has one line. You can't come into the party and reconcile the party's line with some other line. You see this manifested, this tendency that I'm talking about, in the need to try to link W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey. Like there's really, we're all for the same thing, et cetera, which was not the case. You see this line manifested in the fame and significance for many of the picture that's turned into a poster with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King shaking hands, as though that was the essential relationship, them shaking hands, and that's not the case at all. There were serious political and ideological differences there that cannot be smoothed over. We cannot reconcile an incorrect line with the line of the party. And so when people come into the party, we don't find ourselves trying to facilitate to get along with this with an alien line that they want to import into the party. If anything, they're going to be in the party, they're going to have to unite with the line of the party, you know, the African People's Socialist Party. So we say that the party's line, the basic party line, we talked about the basic party line, and you can see it printed here, which is something that we worked with for years. We don't now, not because it's fundamentally incorrect, but because, as you can see at the end of it, it makes the assumption that our struggle is based on delivering a critical blow in the struggle for socialism in this country, and that's not the case. I mean, it's not to say that we are opposed to socialism in this or any other country, but that's our struggle is for the liberation of African people. Our struggle recognizes the centrality of the liberation and unification of Africa and African people in the struggle to overturn capitalism in general. And that's the thing that's going to advance socialism, not just some struggle that's made here in the United States. And nor should it be the primary task in that fashion, because we have to be really careful how we even perceive a struggle for socialism or a struggle for anything in this country. You know, you're talking about stolen land, stolen labor, stolen resources, a foreign and alien population that has come here to build wealth for themselves at the expense of everybody else. And the fact is that the point that we want to make here is that all of the capitalist world rests upon the pedestal of the oppression of Africans and other people. And anybody who's really serious about having socialism has to recognize that this socialism will come in the real world as a consequence of destroying the pedestal that the capitalist world sits on. That means Africans must be free. That means the indigenous peoples, both Spanish speaking and otherwise, must be free. Their lands must be returned to them. They must be able to take back possession of the lands and put forth policies and programs that speak to their interests. So we say that. So we say here after the boldface on page 23, the third paragraph from the top say, hence the general unity of the parties based on the party's basic line, and our unity around specific questions is forged through application of our basic party line to specific points of the general party program as it is reflected in the particular issues and questions we are confronted with in life. Ours is a unity then that is based on consistent African internationalism. But the dynamic application, the dynamic recognition of African internationalism is to be found in the political report to the party that gets struggled around and discussed on every occasion. And so it's a constant and dynamic process, not some static process that that you can get once and for all in that fashion, because the world changes and the party moves and changes with it through the application of African internationalism.
Could you please mute? Please mute.
Please mute. There's someone who is not muted and you're talking and it's interfering. As the advanced detachment of the African working class, colonized within current U.S. borders as that section which pushes forward all others and which has over the great mass of the proletariat the advantage of clearly understanding the line of march, the conditions and the ultimate general results of the proletarian movement, quote unquote, the party must lead everything. This clearly challenges the liberal petty bourgeois ideas that the various social, cultural, and youth organizations which exist in our communities or on the campuses or in prison even are just simply organizations of the people which somehow stand outside history and have no class, character, or political significance in the struggle for national liberation and socialism. In the past, the party has itself on occasion succumbed to the liberal anti-revolutionary petty bourgeois stance within the national liberation movement. This has even led to the party abdicating our responsibility to lead mass organization that the party has built to deal with fundamental questions on strategic value to our struggle. In more than one instance, due to alarmist cries by the petty bourgeois, mostly African but often multinationalist national, who screamed indignation that the party had the foresight and practical ability to lead our movement forward, the party has retreated to the detriment of our revolution. While genuine revolutionaries would have been self-critical for their inability to lead around any of the questions and issues the party has retrieved from obscurity, while genuine revolutionaries would have given all their support to the party, these petty bourgeois forces joined with all the forces of reaction in a great din of anti-party fervor. Today, the party has come to terms with the fact that not only must we not be apologetic for leading, it is our absolute responsibility to lead. I just want to, that may be confusing to some people. What has happened in the past, in the 1970 or so, we got involved in building in the 70s, the African National Prison Organization. And this was an effort to unite the whole pro-independence sector of the African liberation movement at the time. And the objective was for all of us collectively to do this. The party initiated the process. Everybody said they united with the process. We had an incredible conference in 1979 in Louisville, Kentucky, attended by Africans from a variety of different organizations and places that came to the conference. But even as we were building for it, there was clear evidence that there were some sectors of the so-called pro-independence movement that were doing everything they could to frustrate it, to block it, to interfere. And at the actual conference itself, there was a group of people who made efforts to destroy our ability to build the organization. And then after we successfully built the organization that they agreed to participate in, they rushed back to New York City to set up their own organization, to build another organization that would compete with the organization they just said they were related to. And that caused all kinds of problems, you know, and we could have done this on our own. We end up having to do the work ourselves anyway, but we're trying to unite the whole liberation movement. And the same thing happened with the efforts to build the African National Reparations Organization. So early as 1990, we had determined that we were going to make reparations a household word. And we had begun a process of bringing all of these nationalists, all of these pro-independence forces into a single organization where all of us would participate. The African National Reparations Organization, like the African National Prison Organization, was not designed to be a party organization. It was designed to be, 1980s was when we worked on the African National Reparations Organization. We initiated this to be something that would unite the whole pro-independence African liberation movement. But what happened was all of them, virtually every organization from the Republic of New Africa, from NAPO, from the Black United Front, from everything that was out there, fought against their success. In fact, the first tribunal that we had in New York, there was a general boycott of the Black nationalist movement in New York to try to keep it from being successful. So it ended up, because it wasn't theirs, because they didn't lead it. They didn't want to participate in something that was initiated by the African working class. And even though the thing was planned in a fashion that all of us would share the leadership and would build a whole movement and build the campaigns that we were in. They did everything they could to block it. And we end up having to do it all ourselves anyway. And so it just seems clear that we could have, should have done it. Same thing is true with the African Socialist International. We tried to build the African Socialist International by discovering all these revolutionaries all around the world who we're going to bring into the same process, and we would, the ASI would come out of that. In every instance, all of them afraid of the African working class, because it was a serious ideological and class question that was always at work in this process, and they couldn't go where the revolution needed to go. And so all of them, in fact, they found the only time they got united, all these different groups, was in opposition to the party. That became the basis of their unity. So I'm just saying that we had a responsibility to lead, and that's what we're going to do. It's just that simple. So we say that while genuine, today the party has come to terms with the fact that not only must we not be apologetic for leading, it is our absolute responsibility to lead. The party must help the mass organizations, the community organizations, prison collectives, and campus groups to work out the correct political line and to properly direct their activities toward political independence, African liberation, and socialism. The party has to help them come to those that direction. This is the party's task because all the party's work prepares it best for this responsibility. And because the party is the most perfected and highest form of Black working class organization and the highest expression of the people's will to struggle. Please mute if you're not speaking. Please mute. Please mute. You're being really disruptive while you're talking someplace else, because we can hear you. You must mute until you want to speak to the meeting. Within the ranks of the party are the most advanced, most conscious representatives of the colonized African population, the Black working class, and the toiling masses, the representatives upon whose shoulders rests the ultimate responsibility for raising up the revolutionary, scientifically guided consciousness of the Black working class. It is clear that the liberation, please mute, everyone mute, please, because we hear you in every discussion that you're having, and it's disrupting, it's competing with the study. Please mute your phones. Please mute your phones. Please mute your phones. You're disrupting the study. Please mute your phones. Please mute your phone. You're disrupting the study.
Yes, yesterday. Is there somebody on the host who could just mute everybody on the phone?
Yeah, we do that, but often we lose people. We lose everybody often when we've done that in the past.
Okay.
We say that it is clear that the liberation of our people and the emancipation of our class cannot be won by just any kind of organization. It is even clearer that many existing organizations have absolutely no interest in making revolution, and that even some of the radical nationalist organizations are only willing to go so far. However, the role of the political leader can only be fulfilled by the party as the highest form of organization for national liberation and the emancipation of the Black working class. The role of the party as political leader requires the recognition of the absolutely hostile relationship our people have to U.S. colonialism and the various forms of imperialist domination of Africans the world over, as well as the irreconcilability of the class contradiction between world capitalism led by U.S. imperialism and the toiling masses of the working peoples of the world. This is a critical kind of statement. It says something about who we are, and we make judgments about who it is that we're dealing with based on their fidelity to the things that we're raising here. It doesn't mean that we won't ever have a relationship. We can't say anything, but we know who we're working with when we know who we are. And we say that the role of the party leader requires the recognition of the absolute hostile relationship our people have to U.S. colonialism and the various forms of imperialist domination of Africans the world over, as well as to the irreconcilability of the class contradiction between world capitalism led by U.S. imperialism and the toiling masses and working peoples of the world. In other words, we are not looking to reconcile our relationship with imperialism. There is no reconciliation. That we have to see imperialism as the enemy, and that's the contest that we're involved in. And as you know, many of the people who we're talking to and sometimes work with, they don't see that. And that's not to say we can't do something with them, but it does say about what we can expect of those forces and who they are in the world that we're struggling in. Political leadership is a science and an art. It is not something that one has automatically. It requires skill and the capacity to quickly choose and change forms of struggle. Via Lenin, the successful Russian Revolution, correctly declared, quote, "We are the party of a class, and therefore almost the entire class should act under the leadership of our party." That was Lenin. Check this out. Lenin says, do we have the ability to go ahead and mute everyone? I mean, I know that's been a problem in the past when we've muted everyone. Hasn't it resulted in the past in losing people or something to that effect?
No, I think we muted ourselves and people couldn't hear us, and that was the thing.
Don't mess with it.
We can practice it.
Yeah. Okay, we are the part. This is Lenin. We are the party of a class, and therefore almost the entire class should act under the leadership of our party. This is what Lenin said. However, within the domestically colonized population of the U.S., the two main contending social forces are the black working class, comprising 88 to 94% of the population, and the primitive black petty bourgeoisie, which generally speaking has an inordinate amount of influence presently due to the military defeat of the Black Revolution of the 60s. Its influence is also tied to one or another sector of the colonial white ruling class or the capitalist colonialist state itself. In the past, when the political activity and ideology of the black petty bourgeoisie was generalized as an anti-colonial struggle for democratic rights, the black petty bourgeoisie constituted a progressive influence within our movement. In the past, when the political activity and ideology of the black petty bourgeoisie was generalized as an anti-colonial struggle for democratic rights, the black petty bourgeoisie constituted a progressive influence within our movement. The black petty bourgeoisie in the past did not say, generally speaking, that they were working to defeat colonialism. We don't say it was an anti-colonial struggle for democratic rights because they said it. We say it was an anti-colonial struggle for democratic rights because colonialism denies, generally speaking, all democracy for the colonized nation. And during the height of the struggle for civil rights, objectively speaking, the struggle for civil rights, for democratic rights, was an anti-colonial movement for democratic rights. And that's, objectively speaking, how the struggle was characterized at one time. That was the thing that dominated our struggle at one time. However, with the victory of the struggle for democratic rights, which came as a concession to the African petty bourgeoisie and at the expense of the Black Revolution of the 60s, the Black petty bourgeoisie realized its fundamental political aim and lost any historically derived progressive character it once had. So once the struggle for democratic rights, the Civil Rights Bill, the Voting Rights Act, once these things were achieved, generally speaking, the African petty bourgeoisie lost any historically derived progressive character that it had. Doesn't mean that it can't do something progressive, but any historically derived. When we say historically derived, we mean that the whole struggle at that time was characterized by a struggle against the segregationist, deep and profound oppressive state as it represented itself in oppressing our people at that time. The struggles for democracy was a part of the anti-colonial movement, whether it was recognized as such by the leadership of that movement or not. Of course, we had to go beyond just the struggle for democracy as a revolutionary movement. But at that time, when democracy was achieved, the African petty bourgeoisie had realized its historically derived progressive character. it exhausted it at that point as a historically derived progressive character. Thus, the mantle of leadership at that point, both for the struggle for national liberation and socialism, has fallen upon the shoulders of the most despised and feared Black working class. So the mantle of leadership, both for the struggle for national liberation and socialism, has fallen upon the shoulders of the most despised and feared Black working class. Doesn't mean that we don't struggle for democracy. In fact, we do struggle for democracy. But that's the contest we are involved in when we say Black community control of the police, when we say the Black people's grand jury. When we make these demands, democratic demands, now it's under the leadership of the African working class, because the African petty bourgeoisie has exhausted any historically derived progressive character it has. So, in fact, when the demands of the African petty bourgeoisie are retrogressive as opposed to being progressive, they are demands like hands up, don't shoot, Black Lives Matter, we don't have any demands, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the contest the African working class is leading for the struggle for democracy, demanding Black community control of the police. That is we say that the highest expression of democracy in this contest is self-determination. Anyway, that's under the leadership of the African working class. So, and we have accepted this. The African People's Socialist Party has accepted our responsibility for leading the struggle for basic for national liberation and socialism.
All callers are muted and they can unmute themselves.
Therefore, as the advanced detachment of the Black working class, would that be us muted too when we say all callers?
No, it says host.
We're good.
Okay. Therefore, as the advanced detachment of the Black working class, the African People's Socialist Party assumes the leadership not only for almost the entire class, but also for almost the entire people. Do we see the distinction here? As the advanced detachment of the African working class in a struggle for national liberation, we don't assume just the leadership for the whole, almost the whole class, as Lenin talked about, but for almost the whole people, for the entire nation. That has fallen upon our shoulder, and that's another thing that makes the significance of the party itself outstanding. So we say, therefore, we resist any efforts to reduce the activity of the party to that of a passive recorder of spontaneously developing events in the manner of some so-called revolutionary organizations whose theory or program does not require intervention in the practical struggles of life. And our entire mission and the basis of our existence is to become actively involved in life. Our task is to mold the consciousness of the working class and all the toiling masses, and to permanently lead the revolutionary struggle of the masses for political independence, African liberation, and socialism. So here are the 5 democratic principles of party leadership. 1, democratic centralism as an organizational principle of party building and practical activity. Democratic centralism. 2, collective leadership as the highest principle of party leadership. 3, selection of cadre and verification of task fulfillment as the main content of party's organizational work. I'm going to read that again. Selection of cadre and verification of task fulfillment as the main content of party's organizational work. 4, the unity of theory and practice and of organizational and ideological work. And 5, party leadership of the mass organizations of the colonized and working people. These are the 5 fundamental principles of party leadership. I want to go here where we talk about the party constitution and its significance. And we say that it defines the organizational principles of party building, the standards of inter-party life, the forms and methods of practical activity, and is the foundation of the organizational unity of the party. The party constitution states what the party is, what its tasks are, who can enter the party and how, obligations and rights of party members, structures of the party, etc. I want to go down to the lower part of the page on 27, where right below the bold type, it says that raising the significance of the title of party member is connected with the significance of the title of party member. We're saying that being a member of the party is significant. To have that title of party member is significant. And that raising the significance of the title of party member is connected with one, correct selection of new party members. You can't have, you can't say the party membership is significant if just anybody's in the damn party doing whatever the hell they want to do. Two, increasing the responsibility of party members and strengthening party discipline. The party members must have responsibilities. We must increase the responsibilities. We don't recruit people in the party just to be passive observers, you know, but to increase the responsibility of party members and strengthening party discipline. That's the struggle that we have to always be engaged in, and each of us has a responsibility to fight for that discipline. Four, drawing all African internationalists into active day-to-day party work and organizing inter-party life so that it allows for initiative by party members. This is critical for us to understand in terms of raising up the significance of the title of party members. So I want to go forward here and I'm going to read just a tiny bit here on page 28 on the top of the page, and say the party can successfully fulfill its role as mass leader. The party, this is really important, the party can successfully fulfill its role as mass leader only if it takes into its ranks none but the most advanced, conscientious, energetic representatives of the working class, whether they are workers or whether they are revolutionized petty bourgeoisie, intelligentsia, etc. Only those who are ready to merge their interests with the interests of the black working class, as concentrated in the party, to stand up to any difficulty and overcome any obstacle, should be brought into the ranks of the party. For it is true that the strength of the party is not determined so much by our numbers as by the high quality of our membership, adherence to party principles, good organization, and discipline. This is the fundamental question right here. And this is something that everybody should really understand, because sometimes we can get frightened because we don't have many members. But a lot of times we don't have many members because of the principles, the revolutionary principles that we hold on to. We're not just having members to have members. If that was the case, we joined the NAACP or your local church. The thing here is we're talking about building a cadre, a force that will be able and willing and united to overturn the oppression of African people. And that's a distinction that I think is important for everybody to understand. So we say again, for it is true that the strength of the party is not determined so much by our numbers as by the high quality of our membership, adherence to party principles, good organization, and discipline. The party must be viewed as a fortress open only to the most resolute and determined fighters who will submit their will to the will of the party. Writing of this principle on the quality of party membership, Amilcar Cabral, the revolutionary of Guinea-Bissau, before his assassination by Portuguese agents, had this to say, quote, "So that is our principle. The best sons and daughters of our land must lead our party, our people. But does this mean that we have, in fact, always appointed the best? Some are worthless. But we are still going through an experimental phase. The truth is that we have always given persons the opportunity to improve. We have given all workers in the party the opportunity to advance, to show their leadership capacity. There are comrades sitting here who 3 years ago were raw recruits in our military training camps. Today, they are members of our interregional committees or leaders of our armed forces. This shows to what extent our party has been able to open a broad path for our comrades to progress, for those who are most aware and most worthy to lead. Our struggle demands enlightened leadership, and we have said that the best sons and daughters of our land must lead. It is hard to know soon after they have come in who is the best. Following the principle we talked about at the start, trusting wins trust. And as some reveal their ability, we shall bring them forward. Then we shall see if they are in fact the best or not, if they improve or degenerate. Uhuru. I think, unquote, I think that was, a solid statement by Cabral. And that's the thing that we recognize. It's important because we can't, even as we talk about being a fortress, we can't saying that the door is not open to people. So people are just entering into political life right now, many of them. Some of them I have a real good sense of in terms of just real quality forces. They're going to be with us all the time. Some of them will not be able to be with us all the time, but the door is open for anybody who wants to and who can meet certain criteria that we lay out to come into the party and even to achieve leading roles of the party and the revolutionary project that we're involved in. So we say, I'm going to turn now. I've got a silly worksheet that I'm moving with. I want to move to page 31. We talk about probation as one of the things in terms of party membership, because every party member goes through a probationary period, and that's a really important period of a person's entrance into the party, and something that everybody should, become aware of. So people should read this entire document. There's a lot of reading that people, I'm sure, have been doing, especially since we've been doing these studies, because almost everything we've done has been relatively long, and it's really incumbent upon people to do everything we can as individuals to improve as well. But we look at page 31, and I guess what would be maybe the fourth full paragraph from the top. And it says, all political organizers and revolutionary politicians, as political organizers and revolutionary politicians, party members exude great confidence and struggle against their own subjectivism, which has a tendency to make them timid or have their feelings hurt. This is not false confidence, but the confidence born from our ability to take the long view. And over the plenary, we heard people speak of this and how they've overcome or struggled with these subjective factors. But we say that this is a confidence that is constantly reinforced by studying party materials, the revolutionary history of our party, and people, as well as other revolutionary materials, study which reveals the inevitability of our victory, which reveals that as accomplices of history, victory will certainly be ours. Party members reinforce their self-confidence as revolutionary politicians and political organizers by struggle against subjectivism, by contact with the masses, constant study, by doing day-to-day work, and by applying to themselves the revolutionary code of party self-confidence. This is really important. The revolutionary code of party self-confidence, which are 1, a firm belief in the party's ideology; 2, an unending faith in the masses of our people; 3, a deep belief in the justice of our struggle; and 4, a certainty in the inevitability of our victory. This is the revolutionary code of party self-confidence. And it's worth, looking at, paying some more attention to. 31, I'm trying to find my way through. I want to go to I'm hoping that people will really look at this document. There's a lot of good information here, practical information here, that we won't have time to go through in any kind of detail, but everyone should look at it. I want to leave enough time in this study for us to have some discussion, so I'm not going to try to go through everything. I won't be able to go through everything. I do just want to say something on page 38, where there's a question of what is criticism, self-criticism. We say the most important criterion for loyalty to our party and the struggle of our people for liberation is the active fight for party policy. In order to achieve this, it is an absolute responsibility of party members to take part in discussion of party policy, to be involved in self-criticism and criticism, and to adhere to rules of party discipline. Criticism, self-criticism, is the most important means for developing African internationalist consciousness and thereby strengthening discipline and democratic centralism. Criticism, self-criticism helps to discover all mistakes, deviations, shortcomings which separate us from the masses and to correct them. It helps us to improve the work of the party organization, to smash liberalism, subjectivism, and other such contradictions, to expose the agents of the enemy in our ranks. And because the enemy sends police and things like that into our organization, snitches and informers and police. Their objective is to make sure that we never win our freedom. They did that with Malcolm. They killed Malcolm. They killed King. They destroyed the movement for Universal Negro Improvement Association. They tracked down and murdered Lumumba. They overthrew Nkrumah. So there's always this thing that's working against us. But the thing about criticism and self-criticism, it struggles against the kind of liberalism that gives agents and opportunists a free reign inside the organization. If there are people who are in the organization who constantly do things to undermine the organization, who absolutely refuse to adhere to basic revolutionary principles and things like that. And it is criticism and self-criticism is the only thing that helps to expose that, because sometimes agents would join the organization and they would do everything they can to demoralize the organization. They would start whispering campaigns. They will come into the organization, accept responsibility for some of the most important work that has to be done, and then they won't do it. And but they make sure nobody's going to do it because they accept the responsibility, and then they keep it from happening. Agents do those kinds of things, but if you have an organization that's liberal, where nobody raises criticism, where there's a bed of liberalism and all kinds of stuff can happen without any discussion, any struggle, any criticism, and nobody has to make a self-criticism for error, then there's a hotbed for police activity and things like that. That's what we mean. Because I guarantee you that the police has come into our work, that they will come into our work, that they will do everything they can to disrupt the most important activity that we will be involved in. Sometimes we refer to, we say the policy of criticism, self-criticism is referred to as thump soft policy within our party. And as a revolutionary party, the APSP is representative of the new and progressive historical forces moving to replace the dying old and reactionary forces. While we represent the emerging new forces, we must continue to struggle against the old dying forces, dying and reactionary forces, for they are still stronger than we are, although they are dying. Indeed, revolution itself is a part of an historical process whereby the will of the people is asserted through historical forces in a scientific and organized fashion in an effort to influence and escalate the development of the new and the obliteration of the old. Inside our party, there's also a struggle between the old and the new. This struggle within the African People's Socialist Party is the response to internal contradictions. However, there are two types of contradictions. The contradictions between African people and our enemy, imperialism, are antagonistic contradictions and can only be resolved through the ultimate destruction of one or the other. However, the contradictions within our party are non-antagonistic contradictions and must be resolved through education and reasoning. The struggle between African people and our enemy is a struggle between imperialist colonialism and neo-colonialism on the one hand, and national independence and socialism on the other. It is a struggle between the oppressed and the oppressor, between the rich exploiting slave masters and the poor exploited slaves. Our party is an instrument of African people. Its purpose is to lead the struggle to resolve the contradictions between our people and the enemy, contradictions which can only be resolved through smashing the enemy to oblivion, for the motive force of our enemy's existence is exploitation acquired through our colonial oppression. All the members of our party are united against around the single need to free our people through smashing imperialism in any of its forms. The contradictions within our party then are contradictions which affect the ability to liberate. They should be resolved differently than those between the people and the enemy. All contradictions must be struggled against. The difference is how different contradictions must be struggled against differently. To struggle successfully against contradictions, we must know the nature of the contradiction. Whether it is antagonistic as between the people and the enemy, or non-antagonistic as within the party. And I just want to go ahead and move forward and say that we say some more about that, and we talk about thump softly as one means by which we distinguish the contradiction within the party. But to say we thump softly should not be misunderstood. We're not talking about thump softly as a statement of not struggling seriously. We're just saying that the assumption is that nobody's going to be pulling out guns and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and hopefully fist fights will be held to a minimum. The basic thing that we are saying, however, is that nobody should accept the concept, the principle of thump softly as meaning not to struggle against internal contradictions and not to struggle sharply against internal contradictions. I think that should be understood, because they can kill the revolution, they can kill our movement. And we're not sympathetic to anything that's going to try to keep the movement from going forward, nor is it based on the intentions of the person being criticized. And somebody once said that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So the question is not the intent, the question is the effect of what someone is doing or not doing, and how that impacts on our ability to be successful in the revolution. So I want to just say a couple of other things quickly. We talk about also a collective leadership. And I think this is really important for us to understand the whole principle, because we talk about democratic centralism on the one hand. Now we are talking about collective leadership. So we say on page 41, another principle, that is the sixth paragraph from the top. Another principle of the inner life of our party is the principle of collective leadership. The theoretical basis for this principle of inner party life is the African internationalist teachings, which reveal the people, the masses, in the struggle to produce and reproduce real life as the makers of history. It's the people who are the real makers of history. Collective leadership follows from the nature of our party, from its function as a collective political leader, organizer, and teacher of the working people, as the embodiment, the concretization of the will of the African masses to achieve total independence, African liberation, and socialism. Collective leadership is composed of two inseparable parts. One, all major decisions of a unit or party committee are made by the whole body and not by one or two members of the body. All major decisions of the committee, the unit, etc., are made by the whole body, not just a couple of people. Two, each member of the unit or committee is individually responsible for carrying out not only the decisions concerning himself, but the unit or the committee. If one of these two conditions is missing, we are faced with the problem of bureaucracy or looseness in the organization. So we should look at that. This is what we're talking about. Collective leadership. And I'm not going to try to read all of this, but it's really important for us to understand. And which is, we say on page 43, the fourth full paragraph, however, we do expect individual leadership and initiative from party members and leaders. And when these occasions occur, when time and circumstances require individual party members and leaders to make individual decisions for the party, it is not only permissible that they do so, it is required of them. The principle of collective leadership does not liquidate the principle of individual responsibility for the affairs of the party. Of course, the correctness of those decisions and their propriety will also be determined by the party. And if it was correct that the individual make the decision, and if the decision was correct, the individual will be commended and held in high esteem. On the other hand, if it is determined that the individual was incorrect in making the decision, and or if the decision proved incorrect, the individual will be criticized. Thus, those who make good decisions and those who make bad decisions are both held accountable for their actions, as it should be. Need to say that about collective leadership. And there's much more that we say here about collective leadership. So we say that fundamental, this is on page 46. This is the second full paragraph after the bold. So fundamental to the party's organizational work is the selection of cadre and verification of task fulfillment. The selection of cadre and verification of task fulfillment. You don't just get anybody to take it on. Selection of cadre is really important. Writing on the significance of cadre, Le Duan, the great Vietnamese leader and revolutionary, had this to say, quote, after the party has worked out a correct political line, organizational work in general and cadre work in particular are decisive factors for success in the revolutionary task. Cadre policy, if it is to be correct, must proceed fully from the requirements of the revolutionary task. The revolution needs a contingent of cadre who are equal to their political task with regard to their number and quality as well as their composition. A contingent of cadre capable of fulfilling to the highest degree the requirements of the political task in each period. Complete loyalty to the ideas of socialism and communism, to the interests of the working class and the nation, to the political line of the party, to the severest sense of organization and discipline, close contacts with the masses, and the ability to fulfill the task assigned. These are fundamental, unvarying requirements in the qualifications of cadre in whatever period. That's a great statement. It says it all. Selection of cadre and verification of task fulfillment is a critical thing that we have to do. So we say that on page 47, speaking of cadre, on the third full paragraph, we say these are the forces which our party consciously and conscientiously struggle to produce. These are the cadres spoken of by V.I. Lenin, the Russian revolutionary leader, when he stated that, quote, without the dozen tried and talented leaders, and talented men are not born by the hundreds. professionally trained, schooled by long experience, and working in perfect harmony, no class in modern society can wage a determined struggle, unquote. And he says further, I assert that it's far more difficult to unearth a dozen wise men than 100 fools. This position I will defend no matter how much you instigate the masses against me for my anti-democratic views, etc. As I've stated repeatedly, by wise men in connection with organization, I mean professional revolutionaries, irrespective of whether they have developed from among students or working men. I assert, one, that no revolutionary movement can endure without a stable organization of leaders maintaining continuity, and two, that the popular mass draws spontaneously into the struggle, which forms the basis of the movement and participates in it, the more urgent the need for such an organization, and the more solid this organization must be. For it is much easier for all sorts of demagogues to sidetrack the more backward sections of the masses. Three, that such an organization must consist chiefly of people professionally engaged in revolutionary activity. Four, that in an autocratic state, the more we confine the membership of such an organization of people who are professionally engaged in revolutionary activity and who have been professionally trained in the art of combating the political police, the more difficult will it be to unearth the organization. And five, the greater will be the number of people from the working class and from the other social classes who will be able to join the movement and perform active work in it. And then further, so he works on that even more, talks about that, and then we do in this section of the paper as well. He said, we say here on page 50, and talking about how some party members have shown timidity around the question of task verification. In other words, they're supposed to be leading, but they don't want to ask people, they don't want to check on people, they don't want to make sure that the tasks that's been assigned to people are actually being carried out. That's talking about a liberalism, a kind of timidity that won't hold people accountable. And that's absolutely unacceptable. On the other hand, there are people who don't want to be accountable, who refuse to be accountable, who are upset when you try to hold them accountable, who instead of welcoming being accountable, come up with all kinds of arguments against that responsibility. Listen, when the party develops various kinds of protocols and things like that, we don't do that just to mess with individuals. We don't even know who's going to have a particular responsibility when these protocols are established. But the fact is that the protocols are necessary not just for that individual, because all other kinds of plans are being made all up and down the line based on whether this protocol is being followed. So when we say that if you're going to have an intensive study in a particular place, you must do these things. Here are the things that you have to do. It ain't being saying that to mess with you, to make sure, but it is because other things have to be done as well. We have to make plans on this end to make sure that we can do that, and to make sure that other plans that we would be making for other sectors of the movement to do something are not compromised. So it's not just to mess with you, and it's not enough to say, well, you knew I was going to do it because I had said I was going to do it. You said you were going to do it, but what you did after that did not show that you were going to do it, because if you were going to do it, you were required to fill this out, to do this, and to do that. That's the thing that allows us to make decisions on this end that will make it successful, and that will allow us to make arrangements with other groups and not make arrangements with other groups. In other words, it's not that kind of casual thing. And so task verification is a really important thing that we have a responsibility to do. And so don't get upset because somebody calls you to verify a task or to check on you, to challenge you because of a task verification. You see that as an indication that the party is functioning correctly, because this is being checked on, and you should be doing the same thing up and down the line in terms of people working under your leadership. So that's a really important thing. So that I need to say that, and I'm going to go ahead and quickly, try to move, because and we talk a lot about, maintaining links with the mass of the people, and how the mass organizations are the transmission belts from the party to the people. Working these organizations and winning them over to the side of the party is one of the first duties of an African internationalist. So we should be involved in the mass organizations when that's possible. The party is a leader and teacher of mass organizations of the oppressed and colonized working people. The party elaborates the correct political line, defines the task and direction of the political work, and strengthens the mass organization with leading personnel. So the African People's Socialist Party has also had to assume the responsibility of building mass organizations for the people subsequent to the defeat of the Black Revolution in '60. We've done that in the past, we'll do it again. And this is some of the stuff that we wanted to raise just in terms of the party. I just feel like it was really important now that we have so many people coming into the party to have this discussion. It's not the best discussion, but you've got to work a document that you can work here. If it's studied, if it's worked with, it can give a much better and deeper understanding of what it means to be in the party and the significance of the African People's Socialist Party for ending the misery of our people and building the kind of world that we want to inhabit, that it will be inhabitable, because we'll take it back from the imperialists and all their minions that are stepping on the masses of our people and the oppressed people worldwide. Uhuru. We have a little time. Let's talk. Uhuru. And so we're going to unmute now. Will we unmute them?
Here we got some questions.
We have some
All callers
questions.
are muted.
Okay.
Do it again.
All callers are unmuted.
There.
So we have some questions from where, Jabbar?
From online.
What are the questions from online?
We got Donnell Wright. What is the furthest extent we are willing to go to have the revolution succeed?
Let me just say this. I'm glad that question was raised. I'm glad it's raised because of some comments I made at the plenary. The fact of the matter is that there's nothing that we will not do to win our freedom. I think that should be understood. You can't be serious. You can't be serious about winning your freedom if you place handcuffs on yourself before the movement starts. If you tell the oppressor, well, I'll do everything except this to be free, right? You will never be free. So we have to make that clear. But what I also want to make clear is that this is not a decision that will be made by individuals. And we will be talking more and more about questions of security, questions of counterinsurgency, how the government and police organizations were coming to our organization, how they would send provocateurs and things like that into the organization to try to destroy it. We know they do it because we've seen them do it over and over in the past. We've seen them do it recently in Miami, Florida. We saw it in Detroit, Michigan, where they ended up either killing people or arresting a whole bunch of people. The FBI would come and say, look, I know you hate the government. I know you hate this and that. And I got a plan. I'm with Al-Qaeda. I'm just a bad mother. And then say, join with me. I'll show you where to get the guns. And this is what you should do, this and do that and do this with. Don't go into that okie dokie. Don't hear anything that I said that suggests that you should open up for anybody to walk in to offer you this or that and to suggest to you. The party will set the terms for how this whole revolutionary project is going to be made. And we ain't calling on nobody to blow up nothing, go shoot nobody or anything like that. So at this time. So I think that should be clear. But revolution is a science and an art. It's not something an individual takes off and do on his own. An individual can be angry, and because of anger, we see examples of the whole unraveling of a social system. When we see somebody like that brother Ismail, I think it was in Brooklyn in December of Brimsley, who went and shot the two cops. We see other evidence of Lavelle Mixon, who shot the two cops. And we ain't doing nothing necessarily to try to stop people from doing that, but that's not the same as revolution. What we see when we see that is we can see that the system is unraveling, that the people are not awed by the social system. People are increasingly becoming willing to fight the system by any means necessary. And that's simply an indicator And if we say anything, or if we laud that, if we're lauding it because it's an indication that imperialism is losing its grip on the mass of the people, not as it represents a successful revolutionary action or any act or anything like that. Uhudu. I hope I responded, but there should not be anything. There's nothing that the oppressed people should be willing to concede to the enemy in terms of limitations to win our freedom. Anybody else? Uhudu.
And that is the 4 rules of confidence, I think it was, that you read off.
Yeah.
I think that should that we can, massify that in terms of keeping it up on, little parks, that we can just stick up on our walls, because that's really that's a good piece of work right there. And I really think people should understand where your writings come from, especially this study here, which I think was written in response to the party actually bringing a lot of people into the work as we are now, based on the mass struggle was being made in Oakland, California, around land reform, and a lot of people were attracted to the work, and it exposed so-called communists. So the writing that we're reading here comes out of a real practical experience. I think people should know that.
I think that what K. Finger said is really important, is that most of what we have written, or anything I've written, is not just some abstract, based on some abstract intellectual foray, but it's stuff that's been required of us by the revolutionary period, by the revolutionary struggle that we've been involved in, solving problems of the revolution. And this piece was something like that, and it consists of a lot of stuff that was in the Burning Spear newspaper, and there's a lot of studies that we were doing, and etc. As K-Fing mentioned, it was a time briefly where the mass work we were doing were bringing more people into the party itself. Uhudu. Anyone? Uhudu.
Uhudu, Chairman, this is Herdosha. I wanted to say 2 things. I just really appreciate this piece. This was just amazing, just a really great piece. And I just wanted to say, I just love how you spoke on that the party is the vanguard, and we extension of the working class, and we listen to them, and we take their ideas and expose the real deep core contradictions, and we take it to them. And that's what African Shores genocide, that demand is what the people are saying. And we are bringing it back to them, saying, we know, this is genocide, and putting it in the lip, letting them know what the word is, what's the deep contradiction there. And that's our job as organizers, as revolutionaries, is always to expose the core issue of the thing, and that's what the party does. And then I just love how, the other thing that I wanted to say is, I love how you talked about how the party always exposed what side you on, the science, it's the truth, African internationalist. And I just see that as the truth, and it's always our protection, even from ourselves, because its only interest is for the working class. So I just really appreciate this. There's a lot more I could say, but I want to allow other people to talk. But I just really appreciated this piece.
Let me just speak briefly to that. I think that was important that Herdosha just mentioned, because we didn't invent the reparations demand, but we're the ones who took it to the people. We're the ones that are responsible for reparations being a mass issue. I mean, that's just concretely true. And many of the people who have achieved some kind of notoriety and achieved names around reparations work were people we brought into mass political work. And some people have been doing reparations work for a while before we met them. but they were doing it in these little secluded, isolated, you know, small groups and stuff like that, and not even groups, going to this legislative body, this congressperson, et cetera, to get them to write up something. But it was we, the African People's Socialist Party, who took it and made it a mass demand, who held a massive tribunal in Brooklyn, New York, who brought some of the people who had been doing that work out into and some who had not been doing it, who are now seen as major figures in the reparations work. It was we brought them kicking and screaming, even when they didn't want to do this kind of work, into the whole issue about reparations. So it became a mass issue, and the same thing is true around the genocide question. I mean, people have been talking about, and right now when we have this discussion, that some people understand the genocide question is simply going to the United Nations. We will go to the United Nations, but the thing is that we go into the people. We won't go to the United Nations. The objective is to take the people there and to use it as an instrument of winning mass recognition of this relationship and bringing mass of our people together as a part of this process. So I thank you, Hadosha, for you know, just bringing that up. And somebody else was about to say something. Uhuru. I thought someone else was about to say something. Okay.
Uhuru, this is Angelica.
Uhuru, Angelica.
Uhuru, Chairman, and Uhuru, Conrad. I really appreciate this conversation that we're having right here. It's very important for us as all one people to be on all one accord and make sure that we battle in the system and not ourselves, because we would, you know, that can pose contradiction. And with along with that is church genocide. I noticed that a lot of our people, when it's introduced to them, they always ask that question of, you know, what is next, or what happens if, you know, if we don't or not introduced to reparations. And I like to tell them, you know, well, this is just a stepping stone to the revolution, you know, through the revolution. And let them know that the whole purpose is, you know, freedom for our people, liberation for our people. So I really appreciate this conversation that we're having right here, and I think it's really imperative for us to discuss.
Uhuru, I really appreciate that comment, Sister Angelica. You got it dead on. Is there anyone else? We're over time. I just want to see if there's anyone else who had any observation before we shut it down. No? Okie dokie. So on Sunday, next Sunday, am I free next Sunday? Am I open next Sunday? We'll do the study. What are you looking at?
Well, I just want to get another roll call in before you.
Let's do Comrade Gaida wants to do a roll call. I think some people dropped off, but let's see who's on. Comrade Gaida will go ahead and.
Okay, we have starting from Lisa, Denise, Kabaka, Dave, Star, Maureen, Ruby, Jesse, Kitty, Sean,
I will not be here.
and Angela, Mike, Ali, Stephanie, Herdoja, Elizabeth, Andre, Ona, Brenda, David, Magda, Olivia, Gazi, K-Fin, Louise, Johan, Brian, Darnell, Donovan, Yejide. Anybody after that? Say it again.
Olivia.
Chimarina.
Sam,
John.
John,
Uhuru. Uhuru, Trayvon.
Tony.
could you repeat your name? Dre something?
Trayvon.
Trayvon? Javon? No.
Uhuru, Trayvon.
Trayvon.
Sister Tony.
Tony,
Yes. Vanetta.
Vanetta.
Yes.
Who else?
Maito.
Maito,
Uhuru.
Uru.
Black Power 96 on the phone.
Anybody else after Maitos?
No degrading lyrics.
Oh, Mike.
Mike, which one?
Life.
Life. L-I-F-E, life.
All right, I got you, life. What was the last person?
Oh, Will.
Will, before Will, who was the person before Will?
Jordan.
Jordan. Okay.
Sophie.
Sophie, okay.
Uhuru, Angelica, did you get me?
Angelica.
Angelica.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Uhuru, unique.
Unique.
Uhuru Unique.
All right, Unique.
Uhuru Sherman.
Divine one. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else for Unique?
Did I hear Aaron? Was Aaron on? Oh, okay.
Kabina, Aisha, anybody like that? Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Gazi?
Are you there, Gazi? All right, comrades. Real. Uhuru. Who is this? Okay, Gazi, Uhuru.
We're not having the study next Sunday. We have an NCC meeting, so we won't have the study on next Sunday. The following Sunday.
Gator.
Yes.
Gator. Yeah, I just want to thank Andre for coming on to this meeting. He's a young comrade here in Houston, and I think we're going to be all right with him.
Andre?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got a whole bunch of people coming to our site from Houston. I mean, whole bunch of people from Houston in that general area. So, yeah.
Uhuru. So again, I just want to announce that we won't be having the study on next Sunday, but the following Sunday there will be the study. Resume the study.
We get information out to people. Gazi, you're gonna go ahead and make the announcement.
I'm ready.
Uhuru.
Hello, everybody. We just want to first thank everybody for joining in and listening to this powerful political education that we have this Sunday. One thing that we wanted to see was some announcements that we needed to make. One, something that Hidosha already brought up is our petition for Africans Charged Genocide. And you can go to africanschargedgenocide.com or .org, Africans Charged Genocide. And Africans Charged Genocide is our petition that, like Chairman said, that we are taking to the UN, but to also bring to the forefront of Africans worldwide. So please make sure to sign that petition. We currently have a couple thousand, but our goal is 1 million. So make sure after you sign the petition at africanschargedgenocide.org to share it on your Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, and also with your friends and family. Also, we have the Black Power Radio 96 that will be coming soon to you and to your application, or if you are here in St. Petersburg, Florida, so please go to blackpowerradio.org. blackpowerradio.org to make sure to get your bank. We have the Boombox Bank that we ask that you put $1 a day in, $1 a day, and then you can sign up on blackpowerradio.org and get your Boombox shipped to you. Once you get the Boombox, you put in $1 a day, and everybody's goal is $96, and then you can ship that back to us. Also, we have uhurunews.com, so you can get the update news of all the things that are going on worldwide and the African internationalist point of view on the things that are happening worldwide at uhurunews.com. If you're interested in any of the books that we have for sale or to sign up to subscribe to our newspaper, The Burning Spear, please go to burningspearmedia.com. burningspearmarketplace.com. burningspearmarketplace.com is where you can subscribe to our newspaper and also to get one of our books. And lastly, the announcement is a call for membership. If you're interested in joining the African Socialist Party, please go to joinapsp.org. Joinapsp.org. joinapsp.org, and you can click to recruit and fill out that form. If you think you know somebody that would like to come into the party, you can also direct them to that website. Do we have any other announcements that need to be made?
Uhuru, This is Javon. I just wanted to make a correction on the Black Power 96 website. It's blackpower96.org. You can get your banks or find out more information about Black Power 96 at blackpower96.org. And also for those who have not registered for the Sunday PEs, we do have registration on Eventbrite. You can go there before the actual day to register, and that will help us keep a better record of who is on the calls and who will be on the calls. So you can go to Eventbrite, search Sunday PE, Sunday Political Education with Omali Yeshitela, and you will find out how to register, or be looking for emails with that registration information in there. Uhuru.
Good. Thank you, Javon. Also, if you are using freeconferencecall.com to get into this conference call, there's a free conference call application that you can download, and you can put in the information in there and set up an alarm. That way, when 8 a.m. comes, you can automatically call in to the study. That way, you don't have to get the number and put in the location, anything like that. It makes it much easier. All right, guys, Uhuru, and see you on.
I have an announcement. I have an announcement. Killer Mike, who was the subject of the guided script, will be at USF in the last month's issue. Will be at USF on the 20th at 7:30. It might be a good opportunity to challenge them, try to win them, get the parties line across at this meeting. It's part of the Tampa Bay Black Heritage Festival's week-long thing that they do. So that's 7:30 on the 20th at University of South Florida.
Uhuru.
Which campus, like Tampa?
Yeah, I'm sorry, comrade. Yes, USF campus in Tampa.
Uhuru, comrade. So thank you very much. And this study went long. We should have been over at 10 o'clock. But I appreciate everybody's patience and participation in this discussion. And Tammy will be getting information out to people within the next day or two with the studies materials that we'll be using and the date for the next study. Thank you very much. Uhuru.
Uhuru.